The announcement echoed through the Grand Hall. Flight 2227, now boarding at Gate A14. And in the very next moment, an incident unfolded that froze the entire airport in place. The crowd moved like a river split into branches, economy flowing to the right, business forming an orderly stream in the middle, and a red carpet stretched straight toward Gate A14, reserved only for first class and elite members. That space was used to seeing tailored suits, polished luggage, and confident smiles. But today, the arrival of Dr. Liana Brooks sent a strange ripple through the air. Liana walked with steady strides. At 45, her presence carried the weight of decades spent negotiating with corporate giants. Her charcoal-tailored suit hugged her tall frame. Beneath it, a pure ivory silk blouse. Tiny diamond earrings caught the golden glow of the airport lights. Resting on her shoulder was nothing more than a simple leather bag. Inside her slim phone, however, lived the power of a $2 billion contract, enough to shift the fate of Aurora Air itself. Behind her, several younger associates stood in the business line, carefully keeping their distance. They knew the unspoken rule. Their CEO always walked alone in decisive moments. Liana needed no one to stand behind her. At the boarding gate, Megan Sutter, 34, stood stiff in her dark blue uniform, hair pulled tightly in a bun. Her face was a map of rigid rules, the same faint smile offered to the white businessman in a navy suit just before. She scanned his ticket, the machine beeped, and Megan kept smiling as if order was being maintained. But when Liana stepped forward, that smile instantly vanished. "Economy to the right." Megan's voice was sharp, loud enough for many to turn their heads. The atmosphere shifted like an aircraft cabin losing pressure. A woman in a perfectly fitted suit being directed toward economy? Liana's gaze stayed calm as she held out her ticket. "Seat 2A, first class." Her voice was low and firm, not raised, yet cutting through the tension. Megan folded her arms, refusing even to glance at the ticket. "This line is reserved for first class and elite members. Please step aside." The man who had just boarded turned back in surprise. Murmurs spread among passengers. "But she clearly has a first-class ticket. All they need to do is scan it. Why is she being held back?" Liana did not move. She offered the ticket again. "Please scan it." Megan frowned, touching the slip as though it might soil her hands. At last, she dragged it through the scanner. Beep. A green light flashed. Seat 2A was valid. The crowd held its breath, waiting for Megan to step aside. But instead, her fingers tapped quickly at the keyboard before she returned the ticket with 2 stiff fingers. "That seat has just been reassigned to another priority passenger. The system shows you will be re-accommodated. A compensation voucher will be issued." The word compensation dropped like a stone. "I purchased this ticket 3 weeks ago," Liana said evenly. "We will handle the matter, but for now you need to step aside," Megan replied, her body blocking the passage like a wall. Silence thickened around them. A teenager pretended to scroll his phone, but his camera was fixed on the scene. A mother holding her child frowned, whispering, "That's clearly first class." Another voice muttered, "The scanner turned green." The air grew heavy with murmurs, a storm of judgment building. 2 security officers approached, their voices blunt. "Is there a problem here?" "She is obstructing boarding," Megan answered quickly, authority dripping from her tone. The guard's eyes settled on Liana, scrutinizing her. Phones continued to rise above the crowd. Someone whispered, "This is discrimination." Another murmured, "Wait, this will go viral." Liana set her suitcase down gently and raised her head to meet Megan's stare. Her eyes shone, not with anger, but with quiet resolve. For a heartbeat, all sound drained away. Then she pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved swiftly, sending just 2 words. "Freeze deal." A silent touch, yet it detonated like a timed bomb. In a glass tower in Manhattan, numbers on financial screens flashed crimson. $2 billion locked in place, halting Aurora Air's future in an instant. Financial officers panicked, phones rang endlessly. A single transaction that had carried the weight of the company's destiny had just slipped away. Back at gate A14, Liana slipped her phone away as if she had sent an ordinary message. To the crowd, she was still just a woman being stopped at the gate. But far away, an entire corporation was collapsing. Megan believed she had prevailed. Security thought they were keeping order. Only Liana knew the game had just turned. In the pressing silence, the mother with the child stepped closer, whispering softly, "I'm sorry this is happening." Liana met her eyes, offering a gentle smile. "Thank you." The child waved, making the scene even more poignant. Phone cameras captured it all. The calm, the pride, the refusal to bow. No one in the crowd yet understood that in that single moment, an entire airline empire had fallen into the hands of a woman they thought unworthy of walking the red carpet to first class. The beep of the scanner still echoed in the air, yet Megan stood firmly blocking the red carpet, arms crossed, her eyes cold. "First class is reserved for eligible passengers. Please step to the right." Her voice rang out sharp and deliberate, louder than necessary, as if she intended to expose Liana to the crowd. A long silence followed. No one spoke, but the phones had already begun to record. A young man kept his head down, pretending to scroll through TikTok, but his camera was fixed squarely on the gate. A woman carrying her baby tried to shield the child's curious eyes, yet she herself whispered to her husband, "It's obvious. She has a first-class ticket." The space that had been bustling just moments before suddenly felt suffocated. Only the scrape of shoes, the hollow roll of suitcases, and the pounding of hearts filled the air. Liana stood still, her gaze locked on Megan. On the outside, she seemed calm, but in her mind, her blood surged. This is no longer about a seat. This is a test. Megan tapped the keys. The screen flickered, and with disdain, she pushed the ticket back, using only 2 fingers. The seat has been reassigned. The system does not make mistakes. A murmur rippled through the crowd. A passenger muttered just loud enough to be caught on a nearby camera. "Anyone can see she is making this up." The whisper spread like wildfire. Then, with a sharp turn, Megan signaled to security. 2 tall men stepped forward, their voices clipped and dry. "Please move. You are obstructing boarding." For most, this would be the moment to panic, to step back. But Liana simply placed her suitcase gently on the ground, her eyes glinting with steel. She did not need to shout or argue. She needed only one gesture. Her fingers tapped quickly across her phone. 2 words left her screen. "Freeze deal." In a glass tower in Manhattan, Aurora Air's treasury floor convulsed. Screens bled red. $2 billion had just been frozen. Financial staff leapt from their chairs. "What just happened?" a voice thundered through the room. The CFO's face drained of color. "The transfer failed. Wallace Capital just pulled the order." Yet at Gate A14, no one heard the chaos. The crowd saw only a woman calmly sliding her phone back into her pocket. Beneath that silence, an earthquake had already begun. The young man pressed record. The screen caption appeared. She said, "Dignity is not negotiable." Within 40 seconds, the clip was complete, and he pressed upload. A different tweet erupted from a college student sitting near the window. "Just witnessed a woman of color denied first-class boarding despite a valid 2A ticket. She simply said, 'Dignity is a standard. This is blatant discrimination.'" A wave had started moving, though no one at Gate A14 realized it yet. On the ground, tension thickened. A mother whispered to her child, "Don't stare anymore," though her own eyes never looked away. A white businessman in the business line cleared his throat and shook his head, half in admiration, half in unease. Security raised their hands. "Please step aside. You must move." Liana tilted her head slightly, the faintest smile appearing. A smile both ironic and serene. If they knew, they would never dare. Far back, Priya, her 29-year-old assistant, gripped the strap of her bag tightly. She almost moved to intervene, but Liana gave a single glance, a subtle signal. "No need." That look spoke louder than any words. Priya understood. This was a battle her CEO chose to face alone. The crowd began to divide. A passenger shouted, "Just scan it again. Why make it difficult?" Another countered, "Rules are rules. Don't cause trouble." Every word, every look was captured on phones. Megan stood her ground, convinced she was in control. In her mind, this was just another difficult customer, nothing worth noting. But she had no idea that every passing second was becoming evidence, fuel for the world to witness. And it was Liana's silence, her proud, weighted silence, that struck deepest. A small sound broke through, the crackle of a supervisor's radio. He strode quickly to the gate, his face pale. "Megan, stop." "But," Megan protested, her voice harsh. "Stop." His tone was cutting. He turned toward Liana, bowing his head slightly. "I apologize, Dr. Brooks." The name fell like thunder. The crowd erupted. Phones shook in the hands of those filming, unable to believe their ears. Megan froze, eyes wide, her mouth opening but unable to form a word. The plot twist had arrived. The woman she humiliated was not just a passenger. She was the investor who held Aurora Air's very lifeline. Liana bent down, picked up her suitcase. For a moment, no one heard the loudspeaker announcements. No one cared about boarding groups. Every eye was fixed on a single moment, the tipping of power. And in that silence, one truth became clear. Aurora Air had lost far more than a seat. They had forfeited their dignity. Social media never sleeps. It only needs a spark. And that spark ignited at Gate A14. The 40-second video uploaded by the teenager on TikTok began to spread like wildfire. The caption was simple, She said, "Dignity is a standard." In the shaky frame, viewers saw a black woman standing silently, denied boarding to seat 2A, yet her eyes blazed with calm steel. Then came the green beep, confirming her ticket was valid, followed by the chilling words, "The seat has been reassigned." The world saw it. The world raged. Within 5 minutes, the clip hit 100,000 views. In the comments, words pierced like arrows. "I've been told before that I wasn't qualified. This is blatant discrimination, right in front of us." That woman didn't need to shout. She just stood her ground. The hashtag #NotFirstClass began flashing on the trending board. Meanwhile, at gate A14, Megan still had no idea what was happening. She thought she had won, that she had blocked a troublesome passenger and kept the process smooth. But the eyes of the travelers no longer aligned with her. The murmurs had shifted from doubtful silence to outright criticism. A mother holding her baby spoke loudly. "I saw it clearly. The ticket scanned green and she was pushed away. This isn't protocol. This is prejudice." A businessman frowned, muttering, "I thought times had changed." Phones lifted high, cameras sweeping non-stop. Every frame was another piece of the larger truth. Undeniable evidence. In the heart of Manhattan, Aurora Air's headquarters shook as if struck by an earthquake. The finance floor erupted with shouts. "The $2 billion transfer has stopped. Who authorized this?" A young employee, trembling, stared at the crimson screen. Wallace Capital just froze the deal. Helena Voss, the CFO, went pale, her pulse racing. She knew only one person had the power to press that button: Liana Brooks. Beside her, CEO Victor Lang slammed his phone onto the table, the screen shattering. God, what is happening out there? The answer was not in the boardroom. It was exploding across TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. A tweet from the student sitting near the window had been retweeted more than 50,000 times in just 20 minutes. A black woman was denied first-class boarding despite a valid ticket. She didn't shout. She simply said, "Dignity is a standard. If anyone still doubts discrimination exists, come to gate A14. On LinkedIn, a young executive wrote, "When a company loses $2 billion just for failing to respect a customer, that is not a service error. That is a cultural collapse." At the airport, Liana stood motionless, her hand resting on her suitcase. Without speaking, she was still the center of gravity. Her silence was the weapon, forcing the crowd to question, to judge, and to choose sides. Priya, her assistant, stood in the business line, her heart pounding. She had witnessed massive deals and fierce negotiations, but she had never seen her CEO weaponize silence this way. She is rewriting the rules, right here at the gate, Priya thought to herself. In a small cafe near Wall Street, a group of traders sipped espresso with eyes glued to their phones. Aurora Air's stock chart was plunging. "Rumor has it Wallace Capital pulled out," one whispered. "If that's true, this isn't just a PR crisis, this is financial disaster." Megan, still oblivious, forced a fake smile at the next passenger. But no one looked at her the same way. A man whispered to his wife, "Didn't they just call her Dr. Brooks?" His wife's eyes widened. News spread faster than any loudspeaker. Suddenly, the supervisor's radio crackled with urgency. "Operations demands an immediate report. Gate A14 is going viral. His face turned pale as he glanced at Megan, then at Liana. And in that single moment, the crowd understood. This was no longer about a ticket. This was about an empire trembling. On Twitter, a new hashtag exploded. Ma2 billion gone. Someone wrote, "She didn't need to scream. She just pressed one button, and 2 billion vanished." On Instagram, the slow-motion clip of Liana smiling at the child carried the caption, "This is the power of dignity." Every platform became an arrow, and every arrow flew toward the same target, Aurora Air. And Liana? She closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. Her heartbeat was steady, calm. In the silence, she remembered every time she was told she was not qualified, every time she was asked to prove herself again, every time she stood at the back of a line while others were waved forward. All of it had built up, converging here at Gate A14. Now, the world was watching, and this time, she would not step back. The wave had begun. It would not stop. It would sweep away more than a gate agent. It would drown more than a CEO. It would shake an entire industry. And it began with the proud silence of a woman standing tall at Gate A40, on the 48th floor of Aurora Air's glass tower in Manhattan. The massive trading room screen glowed blood red. $2 billion had just been frozen, like a blade plunged straight into the company's lifeline. This is impossible. Helena Voss, the chief financial officer, went pale. Her glasses slid down the bridge of her nose, her trembling hands flipping through reports. She had never seen a transaction of this scale collapse midstream. Beside her, CEO Victor Lang, 58, roared, "Who authorized this? Who blocked it?" A young Treasury employee stammered, "Sir, Wallace Capital just revoked authorization. This isn't a system error. It was deliberate." The room sank into deadly silence. Everyone understood. Wallace Capital had only one ultimate decision-maker, Dr. Liana Brooks. Victor bellowed, "Where is she?" No one answered. But just minutes earlier, on Twitter, the clip from Gate A14 had reached 500,000 views. The caption read, "Denied seat 2A." She stood silent, then 2 billion vanished. The room felt as though it had sunk another level into hell. This was no longer a failed transaction. This was a communications crisis, the kind no strategy could contain. In the corner, Chief Legal Counsel Marcus Dell, 52, wiped sweat from his brow. His voice rasped. "If she sues, damages for discrimination could reach hundreds of millions, and if it turns into a class action..." "Silence!" Victor slammed the table, his voice cracking like thunder. But he knew Marcus was right. Helena whispered, "The stock is sliding. Pre-market down 7% in just 15 minutes. Victor felt his entire body weighed down. 30 years of career, he had faced market storms before, but never had he witnessed a blow so lethal, so public, and so irreversible. Meanwhile, at Gate A14, cameras continued to record every frame. The crowd held its breath as the supervisor bowed his head. "I'm sorry, Dr. Brooks." That resounding name immediately reached the ears of journalists stationed at the airport. One lifted the phone. "Listen, we've got breaking news. The investor behind Wallace Capital was just humiliated at the boarding gate. Within 10 minutes, CNN flashed the red ticker. Breaking news: $2 billion investor denied first-class boarding. Back in Manhattan, Victor nearly growled. "Shut this story down immediately. Helena, call communications. Marcus, draft a press release. I want a public apology before the market opens." Marcus looked him straight in the eye. "It's already too late. The video is trending globally." Victor froze. His heartbeat quickened. Phones buzzed non-stop on the table, each vibration like another knife in his chest. Shareholder emails, journalist inquiries, market alerts. The room swarmed like a hive gone mad. Helena's voice shook. "We might salvage this, if she forgives us." Victor clenched his fists. In his mind, the image of Liana standing still at gate A14 blazed vividly. A woman he once dismissed as merely a financial partner. But now, she was no longer just a name on a contract. She had become the public symbol of humiliation and defiance. He knew no press release could extinguish that image. A young executive rushed in. "Sir, you need to see this." On the screen, the slow-motion clip of Liana smiling at the child had spread across Instagram. The caption read, "This is the power of dignity." Over 1 million likes in just 30 minutes. The room sank into silence. Victor collapsed into his chair, eyes empty. He whispered, "All this because of one gate agent?" Helena's reply was cold. "No. All this because of our culture, and because of her, the woman who holds the real power." At gate A14, Liana remained still, yet around her a storm swirled. The crowd whispered, phones glowed. A mother murmured, "I'll tell my child." This is a moment to remember. And from the distance, Priya clenched her fists, pride surging within her. She knew this moment would be written into history, not only the history of Aurora Air, but of the entire airline industry. In Aurora Air's tower, Marcus Dell closed his eyes. He knew the wave had grown beyond control. No one in the room held power anymore. All that remained was one thing, the next decision of Liana Brooks. Gate A14 was no longer just a boarding gate. It had become a stage where every eye and every camera lens focused on two women facing each other, Dr. Liana Brooks and Megan Sutter. The air was so heavy that everyone could hear the distant roll of suitcase wheels, even the tense sound of breathing. A passenger whispered, "She's the investor from Wallace Capital." That whisper spread quickly, like fire racing through dry grass. Megan tried to keep her expression cold, her hand resting on the keyboard, but her eyes began to waver. She was not used to being stared at by a crowd, not used to becoming the center of a story spreading across the globe. Liana lifted her ticket, her voice calm yet carrying like a command. "Scan it again." Megan pressed her lips tightly. "I told you, this seat has been reassigned. Scan it again." This time, Liana's voice was short and sharp, like a blade cutting through silence. Supervisor Omar Patel rushed over, sweat streaming down his face. He had no patience left. "Scan it, Megan." Megan's hand trembled slightly as she slid the ticket through the machine. Beep. A green light. Once again, seat 2A flashed valid, undeniable. The crowd erupted. Phones buzzed furiously. A passenger shouted, "See? From the beginning, that seat was hers!" Megan froze. For the first time in her shift, she had no words. Liana stepped forward, her gaze locked on Megan. "You think I don't belong here?" Megan swallowed hard, struggling for her voice. I was just following procedure." "Procedure?" Liana tilted her head, her eyes piercing. "You use that word to hide prejudice. One word cannot erase human dignity." Megan opened her mouth, but no words came. Around them, the crowd murmured, some nodding, some whispering. "She's right." Omar turned to Liana, bowing deeply. "On behalf of the terminal, I apologize, Dr. Brooks." Her name thundered through the air again. A young woman gasped, covering her mouth. "She's the investor Aurora Air depends on." Megan's face drained of color. Her eyes widened, her body stiff. In that moment, everyone understood. The power dynamic had completely shifted. A mother carrying her little daughter stepped forward, speaking softly but loud enough for the cameras. "Thank you for not backing down." The child waved, and Liana smiled gently. The cameras captured the moment instantly. A photo spread across Twitter with the caption, "This is dignity. This is power." In Megan's mind, everything spun. She saw flashes of light, cameras pointing at her, passengers' eyes filled with disdain. She heard the whispers, "This is blatant discrimination." She picked the wrong woman to insult. Her career is finished. Megan gasped for breath, wanting to say something to justify herself. But Omar cut her off. "You should stay silent. Everything has been recorded." His words fell like the final hammer. Liana set the ticket back on the counter, her voice steady and sharp as steel. "Your company exists because of me, yet you tried to erase me with just a glance. This mistake cannot be measured in an airline ticket. It is measured in your future." A passenger whispered, "My God, she just cancelled $2 billion over this." The crowd roared. Cameras panned from Liana's face to Megan's, then to Omar. Every blink became evidence for millions watching online. In Manhattan, inside Aurora Air's boardroom, Victor Lang slammed the table as the live feed filled the screen. He saw his employee blocking the gate, saw his key investor humiliated, saw the crowd rally to her. He knew we lost at gate A14. Back at the scene, Omar bowed deeply. "Please, Dr. Brooks, you may board." "We will." But Liana raised her hand to stop him. "I will not step through this gate until accountability is carried out in front of everyone." The crowd erupted. Someone shouted, "That's right! Justice here and now!" Megan stepped back, her legs trembling. She had never seen her career collapse so quickly. But Liana no longer looked at her. She looked further, toward the hundreds of lenses and thousands of eyes watching. And she knew this moment was no longer hers alone. It belonged to everyone who had ever been told they did not belong. In the thick silence, Liana spoke slowly, each word sharp and clear. "Dignity is not a privilege. It is a standard." Her words echoed, captured from dozens of angles, and within minutes they would become a rallying cry across every platform, transformed into a collective weapon that Aurora Air could not withstand. Manhattan, 9 a.m. Aurora Air's tower felt locked inside an invisible storm. On the 52nd floor, the boardroom was as silent as a funeral home, broken only by the blinking ticker on the stock screen. 12%, 115%. CEO Victor Lang slammed the table so hard that his coffee cup shattered. "This is just a passenger incident, a low-level employee. Why is our stock dropping like a plane with no engine?" CFO Helena Voss spoke with a trembling voice, her eyes fixed on the sea of red. Because this was no ordinary incident. This was Dr. Liana Brooks. She controls a $2 billion contract, and she just showed the world that we humiliated her at the boarding gate. The air froze. At the head of the table, a board member growled, "That clip has over 3 million views in less than an hour. The hashtag #NotFirstClass is #1 globally. Do you think customers will still stay loyal to Aurora Air?" Victor swallowed hard, his face ashen. He had run this company for 30 years, surviving oil crises, strikes, even a pandemic. But never in a single morning had he felt his empire evaporate before his eyes. Helena turned her laptop toward the table, revealing tweet after tweet. They said she wasn't worthy of first class. She cost them $2 billion with one button. Aurora Air, where customers are discriminated against and investors pull their money. We're boycotting, not a single dollar more. The legal director cut in. If she decides to sue for racial discrimination, the damages will far exceed the frozen contract. The EEOC will investigate. The FAA could step in. Even Congress might drag us into hearings. A heavy silence followed. Someone muttered, "All this because of one gate agent?" Marcus Dell, chief counsel, replied coldly, "No, because our culture tolerated prejudice, and this time the victim has the power to send us the entire bill." Victor tried to steady his voice. "So what do we do? I need solutions. Now." Helena drew a deep breath. "I'm sorry, sir, but it's no longer in our hands. Every decision rests with Dr. Brooks. She holds the company in her palm." Victor looked around the table. Every face was lowered. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, at gate A14, Liana still stood firm. The crowd filmed, journalists swarmed, camera flashes lit the scene like lightning. With every passing second, the story grew into a brand catastrophe. A passenger whispered, "I can't believe I'm seeing this with my own eyes." Another replied, "Believe it, this will define the entire airline industry." Back in the boardroom, arguments erupted. "We need to blame the gate agent, fire her immediately, reassure the public." "Not enough. The public saw the whole system. Stay silent. Security siding with staff. Firing one person is a stone tossed into the ocean. We need the CEO to apologize directly, immediately." All eyes turned to Victor. He sat frozen, hands trembling. Never had his seat of power felt so fragile. Helena spoke softly but firmly. "If you don't act, the board will. Shareholders are calling non-stop. They want blood." Victor raised his head, his eyes blazing. "You want me to take the fall?" No one answered, but silence was the answer. Suddenly, the large screen flashed a new update. Aurora Air down 20% pre-market. $4.8 billion in market value wiped out. The room shook. Chairs scraped. Curses flew. A board member jumped to his feet. "We are in free fall. If we don't act this instant, when the market opens, Aurora will lose all trust." Victor bowed his head against the table, whispering in near despair, "God, if only this morning had been just another ordinary flight." But this morning was no longer ordinary. And from Gate A14, the storm kept striking the tower floors. Every second, the silent strength of one woman was sinking an entire corporation. Gate A14 was no longer just a departure point. It had become an arena where every phone camera and every gaze fixed on Dr. Liana Brooks. Megan Sutter still stood there, her hands trembling, sweat soaking her collar. In her mind, every excuse had turned to stone. She realized she was not only being judged by the crowd, but laid bare before the entire world. Liana stepped slowly onto the red carpet, not advancing fully, not entering the jet bridge. She stopped at the very line where the carpet divided the classes. Her voice rose, calm yet resonant like the toll of iron. "This seat, 2A, I purchased. This seat, 2A. The system confirmed valid. But what matters is not a chair. It is the truth. You believe I do not belong here." The crowd erupted, cameras lifted higher, the clicks of shutters exploding like firecrackers. Megan stammered, I was only following." "Procedure?" Liana cut her off, her eyes sharp as blades. "Procedure is the shield you and the entire system hide behind to mask prejudice. But prejudice does not vanish simply because it wears the cloak of policy." A young passenger shouted, "That's right! We see it all!" The first applause rang out, then spread into a wave. At Aurora Air's media control desk, PR staff stared in shock. A director gasped, "My God, she is turning Gate A14 into a global stage." Liana drew a deep breath, her eyes sweeping the crowd. Her voice hardened. "I have heard not qualified too many times. In boardrooms, in banks, and now here at this gate. But today I will not stay silent, because dignity is not a privilege. It is a standard." A voice called from the back, "Dignity is a standard." Dozens more joined in chorus. Cameras captured everything. Megan wanted to scream, to reclaim a shred of authority. But as she opened her mouth, Supervisor Omar cut in coldly. "Enough. You have caused enough harm." Megan froze, her eyes wide. Liana turned to him, nodding slightly. "Apologies are not enough. Accountability must happen here, before everyone." Omar swallowed hard, his face drained. The radio at his hip crackled. "Corporate demands immediate disciplinary action." The crowd held its breath. In Manhattan, Victor Lang nearly shouted as he watched the live feed on CNN. "They are airing this like an official press conference." Helena Voss shook her head, her eyes locked on the screen. "No, Victor. This is bigger. This is a public trial, and we are in the defendant's chair." Back at Gate A14, Liana bent down, picked up her ticket, then raised her head high. "You may take my seat, but you cannot take my dignity. And today, the entire world is watching." Cheers erupted. A mother holding her child raised her phone, tears streaming. "Thank you for standing for us." The little one laughed and waved. Cameras caught the moment perfectly. an image destined to become the symbol of millions of headlines. Meghan finally broke down, her shoulders shaking with sobs. But no one pitied her. A man in line muttered, "She picked the wrong woman." And now justice is answering back. Omar slowly unhooked his radio, his voice trembling. "Megan Sutter, by order of the executive board, you are suspended immediately." The thud of her badge hitting the counter echoed through the space. The crowd buzzed. Cameras shook in hands, trembling with excitement. Liana did not gloat. Her eyes looked far beyond, her voice low and steady. This is not just about one individual. This is about an entire culture. A culture that must change, starting now. Her words pierced like an arrow into Aurora Ayre's heart. In the Manhattan boardroom, Victor Lang collapsed into his chair, whispering, "We have lost everything." Helena answered softly, no longer fearful, but resolute. "No, we have only been forced to face the truth." And at Gate A14, before hundreds of witnesses and millions watching online, Liana Brooks transformed personal humiliation into the public trial of an entire airline industry. Phone screens lit up everywhere. In a small cafe in Brooklyn, a group of students sipped lattes with their mouths open, staring at the replay. In a London investment office, traders leapt from their seats as the hashtag @NotFirstClass shot straight to #1 globally. In Tokyo, a breaking news alert scrolled in red. US investor freezes $2 billion after discrimination incident at JFK. Within 2 hours, the 42-second video capturing Liana's words, "Dignity is not a privilege, it is a standard," had surpassed 10 million views. On Twitter, comments poured in like a flood. She didn't shout, she just stood still, and an entire airline collapsed. This is the lesson. Disrespect a black woman, and you will pay in billions. At not first class, but at top of the world. On Wall Street, the trading board glowed crimson. Aurora Ayre fell 25% in value as soon as the market opened. A CNBC analyst exclaimed, "We are witnessing a historic crash, not because of a plane accident, not because of a fuel crisis, but because of a moment of injustice caught on a phone." A trader slammed his keyboard, shouting, "Sell everything. Customers will never forgive this." Back at Gate A14, the crowd of passengers was no longer just an audience. They had become witnesses to history. The mother holding her daughter streamed live, "I am here." They tried to push her out of the seat she bought, but she stood firm. And now the whole world stands with her. Within minutes, her live stream surpassed 200,000 viewers. Comments poured in, "Thank you for capturing this." I cried when I saw the child wave. We are watching justice unfold right at the airport. Megan Sutter sank into a chair, her face pale. She heard every cheer, every camera click, and knew she was no longer an employee. She had become the symbol of a mistake. Omar Patel, the supervisor, stood heavily, pressing his radio to his ear. The voice from headquarters came through clearly. "Corporate confirms. Suspend Megan Sutter. Announce immediately and on site." Omar drew a deep breath, turned to the crowd, his voice trembling but firm. "By order of the Executive Board, employee Megan Sutter is suspended, effective immediately." A roar erupted. One passenger shouted, "That's justice!" Another added, "No, justice is only beginning." At that moment, CNN aired live coverage from Gate A14. The image of Liana standing tall filled millions of American homes. The Chiron read, $2 billion investor confronts Aurora Air after discrimination allegation. An anchor declared solemnly, "We are witnessing a turning point in aviation history." On Instagram, celebrities joined in. An Oscar-winning actress reposted the clip with the caption, "She just did what we all dream of, turning silence into strength." The post drew 2 million likes in 30 minutes. A famous rapper tweeted, "They thought she didn't belong in first class, but she belongs to the future. Had dignity first." In Aurora Air's boardroom, Victor Lang's hands shook as he switched on the TV. The image glared back at him, Liana with her head held high, her voice echoing, "Accountability is not an apology. It must happen before everyone's eyes." A board member exclaimed, "We have lost, and she is rewriting the rules." Helena Voss whispered, "No, she is rewriting history." At gate A14, a young reporter stepped forward, microphone in hand. "Dr. Brooks, do you have a message for Aurora Air?" Liana paused, staring straight into the lens. The crowd held its breath. Her voice was low, steady, but each word burned. "I am not here to fight for a seat. I am here to remind the world that every passenger deserves respect. And if a company cannot understand that, they will pay the price. Today the price was $2 billion. Tomorrow it could be their future." The crowd erupted. Applause thundered through the concourse. Cameras swept the scene. That clip spread instantly with the caption, "She turned a seat into a global lesson." In Los Angeles, a morning show host looked into the camera, speaking firmly. "We just witnessed a moment when a woman, with nothing but composure, shook a corporation to its core." And in the boardrooms of rivals, Delta, United, British Airways, CEOs furrowed their brows and issued urgent orders. "Review procedures now. We cannot become the next gate A14. Liana Brooks still stood there, silent, but around her surged a tidal wave. Every phone, every hashtag, every headline was turning this moment into a global storm. And Aurora Air had no choice but to sink beneath it. In Aurora Air's glass tower in Manhattan, the atmosphere was as suffocating as a prison. The stock screen displayed the merciless figure. 28%, billions in market value, evaporated in just a few hours. CEO Victor Lang sat frozen at the head of the table, his face hollow, aged by a decade in a single morning. In front of him, his phone buzzed endlessly. Dozens of messages from shareholders, political allies, and bloodthirsty reporters. He no longer dared to open them. Helena Voss, the CFO, whispered, "We have lost $7 billion in market value. If this is not contained immediately, our credit rating will be downgraded. Banks will pull funding. This is no longer a PR crisis. This is life and death." Victor grabbed his glass of water, his hands shaking so violently that it spilled over. He muttered, "All this from a boarding gate?" Marcus Dell, the chief counsel, rasped, "No. All this from arrogance that lasted for decades. And this morning, it was exposed to millions." The board meeting seethed with fury. 12 faces on video calls from London, Frankfurt, and Singapore hurled their anger like hail. One member hissed through the microphone, "You let an employee humiliate our biggest investor. Now the stock has collapsed. The contract is frozen. How much longer do you think you can sit there? Victor roared. I have run Aurora Air for 30 years. I will not let a TikTok video destroy my legacy. Helena shot back. It was not TikTok that destroyed it. It was you. You allowed this culture to exist. Silence fell. For the first time in his life, Victor realized his allies had turned against him. At Gate A14, Liana Brooks still stood calmly, her suitcase at her side. The crowd erupted as a CNN reporter raised a microphone. Dr. Brooks, are you satisfied with Aurora Air's response so far? Liana's eyes blazed cold. They have lost billions, yet they have not learned the lesson. A public apology is not the solution. Cultural change is the solution. That response instantly became the leading headline on CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera. Applause thundered through the A14 concourse. In Manhattan, a board member from London shouted into the microphone, "Victor, are you listening? The whole world just watched her turn our company into a lesson. You have lost leadership. Resign, or we will vote you out." Victor's voice cracked. You want me to sacrifice myself to calm the outrage? Marcus Dell whispered, This is no longer about calming. This is about survival. At that moment, social media exploded with a new hashtag. #ResignVictor. Twitter users wrote, If this CEO stays, Aurora Air has no passengers left. An airline built on discrimination cannot be led by someone blind to it. Resign. Save the innocent employees. Victor leapt to his feet, shouting, I will not resign. This is my company. But just then, the doors burst open. A communications aide stumbled in, his face drained of blood. Sir, you need to see this. You need to see... On the giant screen, a live broadcast appeared. Liana Brooks, her voice ringing into the microphone, her words spreading like cannon fire. Today, Aurora Air lost $2 billion. But what they truly lost is trust. The boardroom fell silent as stone. Helena whispered, It's over. No one can save us now. As Victor slumped back into his chair, the International Board spoke in unison. You have 24 hours to step down. If not, we will initiate an emergency vote of removal. One by one, their screens went dark. Victor was left alone in the room, swallowed by shadows. He buried his head in despair, whispering, I only wanted to protect a process. How did it become the end of the world? Outside, at Gate A14, Liana had no idea that a CEO had just fallen. She knew only one truth. Her silence had become a hammer, striking the very heart of a corporation, and the battle was far from over. The next morning, America woke up to a blazing red headline on every screen. Aurora Air CEO resigns after discrimination scandal at JFK. The press room was packed. Dozens of microphones pointed at the wooden podium. Camera flashes fired relentlessly. Victor Lang, the man who had dominated the skies of commerce for 3 decades, stepped forward. His gray hair was disheveled, his eyes sunken, his steps heavy. He was no longer a symbol of power, only a shadow of himself. Victor placed his hand on the microphone, his voice hoarse. I take responsibility for the cultural failure that led to the incident at Gate A14. Effective immediately, I resign as Chief Executive Officer of Aurora Air. He bowed his head as cameras snapped in a relentless barrage. The hashtag #ResignVictor instantly climbed to the #1 spot worldwide on Twitter. Meanwhile, at Gate A14, now a gathering place for passengers as if it were a shrine, Dr. Liana Brooks appeared for the first time since the storm. The crowd thundered with applause as she stepped to the microphone, her posture straight, her eyes bright, her face calm, yet proud. Her voice rose, clear and steady, as if carving each word into the memory of the world. I do not want to see another passenger told they do not belong. I do not want to see another employee hide behind the word procedure to mask prejudice. From today, Aurora Air has only one choice: change. The crowd roared. A passenger shouted, "We support you!" CNN carried the speech live. A reporter whispered to a colleague, "She has just turned a boarding gate into a platform for industry reform." And Liana continued, "Wallace Capital will not release a single contract until Aurora Air signs the Passenger Dignity Clause, a binding commitment to transparency, independent bias audits, and public disciplinary mechanisms. This is not a request. This is a condition." Every word struck like a hammer against the heart of the corporation. In Manhattan, Aurora Air's board nearly wept. Helena Voss whispered, "We are no longer negotiating. We can only accept." On social media, a new hashtag exploded, #DignityClause. Users wrote, "For the first time, passengers have dignity written into law." She didn't just topple a CEO, she changed the entire airline industry. Not first class has become dignity for all. Megan Sutter, now confined in her small apartment, watched everything unfold on her phone. Her face was gaunt, her eyes red. She saw Liana standing strong, saw her young daughter ask in a trembling voice, "Mom, is that her?" Megan nodded as tears streamed down her face. She understood the world had changed, and she was the one who lit the spark for the inferno. At Gate A14, Liana ended her speech with a gentle smile. "This is not the end. This is the beginning. Because justice is not just punishment. Justice is ensuring mistakes are not repeated. And I promise it will not happen again." Applause thundered, echoing from the concourse to the parking lot, flooding across social media. That afternoon, Aurora Air officially announced it would accept every condition from Wallace Capital. A new era of aviation began, one where dignity was no longer a slogan, but a legal obligation. In Washington, a senator declared on national television, "When a woman can make an entire industry bow to the word dignity, this is no longer business. This is history." As night fell, Liana sat alone in her hotel room, her phone overflowing with congratulations, gratitude, and admiration. But she opened only one message, from her mother in Atlanta. "Daughter, today you didn't just keep your own seat, you kept the seat for all of us." Liana smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. She knew the battle was far from over. But tonight, she had written a chapter that could never be erased. A chapter of dignity, of justice, and of change. In the world of business, sometimes a single small moment can erupt into a global earthquake. The story at Gate A14 did not just bring down a CEO. It did not just shake Aurora Air. It opened a new chapter, where dignity is placed on equal ground with profit. Experts call this the Brooks effect, proof that true power does not lie in a first-class seat, nor in a gleaming glass boardroom, but in the courage to stand tall when being diminished. And that strength, when carried through millions of phones, can shake an entire industry. If you believe that respect is not a privilege, but a standard, press like to spread this message. Do not forget to subscribe so you will not miss the next stories, where justice always appears in the most unexpected ways. And I want to hear from you. Leave a comment with just the word dignity, so the world knows that we always stand on the side of respect.